Hi, welcome to the second video for week 5, which is on the first component of the Atkinson-Shiffrin model, sensory memory. This is the first stage of memory, so it's where information is received from all of our environment in through our 5 senses. So the sensory memory actually has 5 subsystems, but you only need to know 2, which we'll go into detail about soon. It has unlimited capacity. So there's no point at which you stop seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, tasting anything. But most of the time you're not aware of it. In fact, you're not aware of anything that's going in and out of your sensory memory because the moment we do pay attention to it, it moves into our short-term memory. So it's there for a very brief duration. And this is really important because it basically is almost a holding bay, allowing us a couple of seconds to decide what's important. So for instance, if you're resting your hand on something now, your brain will register this information, but you won't be aware of it, and you only become aware of it perhaps if your hand is uncomfortable and you need to move it, and then the information is moved into short-term memory. So the information has not reached your awareness yet if it's in sensory memory. The information isn't processed at this point. It's held in what we call its raw form. So for example, light energy is held in sensory memory in the form of electromagnetic energy. The body hasn't done anything to transform this energy at this stage, so no encoding has happened. One of the subsystems you do need to know about sensory memory is iconic, and remember the word icon means visual or vision. So this is the visual subsystem of sensory memory, so one of the 5 senses. It holds information there for a fraction of a second, about a third of a second, and this allows us to see a movie as a smooth flowing series or smooth flowing movie rather than a series of still shots. Think back to those flip books that you used to have where there'd be progressive pictures drawn on each page, and if you flick through it really quickly, it appears as though that is moving. And that's basically what happens when you go to the movies. Each individual shot stays up for a fraction, or gets flicked up, and we hold it in our iconic memory for a fraction of a second, long enough to see the next still shot, followed by the next still shot, and this gives us the sensation of seeing a movie. The other subsystem is the echoic memory. This is your auditory or sound subsystem of sensory memory. So they're the only 2 that you need to know, iconic and echoic. It stores information for approximately 3 to 4 seconds, so longer than iconic memory, but still quite a short duration. It basically has to be a little bit longer because hearing and speaking are quite complex processes. So it allows us to hold the start of the sentence in our memory until we hear the next section of the sentence. So therefore we can start making sense of what's actually being said. You'll always be using your echoic memory if you've ever had a conversation with someone and you've not quite heard what they've said, and you've said what, and then they start to repeat it and you start answering what they had asked you in the first place because you actually did have record of that information. All you had to do was turn your attention to it in the 3 to 4 seconds after they spoke about it, and then it would move on to short-term memory. So it sort of holds there for 3 to 4 seconds. And once we pay attention to anything in these substores, of course it's moved on to our short-term memory, which is what we'll speak about in our next clip. I'll see you shortly.